Hey guys, sorry about that. We're back. Hey Bella. Hey New Orleans lady. You guys are fast. I just hit the go live thingy and you guys hopped right on fast. So where were we? Moving day. Exactly. I think it was moving day. I think that the plan was that Christopher Watt's wife was going to go live with her parents. I do. And I think that that ongoing family matter at the upcoming court hearing was pretty much going to seal the deal legally. Which puts the whole idea that Christopher Watts was some sort of an adulterer, in my opinion, to the wayside. And I think his wife decided she wasn't going to let any of that happen. Remember, like we said yesterday, she said that she tried to talk to him and he said he wasn't going to lose the girls. Well, there you have it right there. And she asked him if he would stay with her if they didn't have kids. Well, that would infer that he was leaving her because they did have kids. You know, you guys, I never thought of that before. Think about that. Would you stay with me if we didn't have kids? If you just look at it from a purely logical standpoint, then that would translate to mean that he was leaving her because they did have kids. Does that make sense? Would you stay with me if we didn't have kids? Must be he was leaving because they did have kids. So the ongoing family matter? Yeah, gee, I wonder. And it's really too bad that all the scumbag attackers were so busy attacking so many of us because it really put a damper on free and open discussion about this case. You know, some of the stuff that we've been talking about lately, that information has all been there for 3 years, right? But I don't know, when we're getting attacked and doxxed and threatened and harassed, it's kind of hard to keep the conversation going, isn't it? And, you know, look around. Look at how many channels have come and gone because they were being attacked so terrible. It was terrible. And you know what? Look at the crap they keep pulling just even against trying to find the addresses of the subs and stuff. It's like, what? This is so disgusting. Well, the scumbag attackers themselves make videos saying, "Ooh, I'm being attacked." Bullshit. Bella says, I think that every time CW had his foot out the door, another pregnancy or illness surfaced. I agree with you. I think that during the pregnancy with Bella, the CW saw another side to his wife. And I think his foot was out the door from that day forward. I don't know anybody who blogs regularly during a pregnancy only to stop blogging altogether at the 32-week mark. So why did she stop? Why is there no other entry at all on a blog site that she was posting on regularly at 32 weeks? And then nothing beyond that, I think she had a mental breakdown. And I think Christopher Watts was like, oh shit, what did I marry? I think he was trapped. And I think he was conditioned and groomed by others to believe that he wasn't able to leave. And think of this too. Remember, Christopher Watts said that his father-in-law called him every single evening. And I think even his father-in-law said it too, that he called every evening to check on the girls. So Christopher Watts marries this broad, and they live in the basement of a nurse who would later go on to specialize in psychiatric nursing. Do you really think she was a friend, or was she a caregiver? And then, kaboomer, what was it, 15 months, 16 months that her parents lived right in the house with them? Her brother moved in for a month or a month and a half. Some supposed nurse friend, but I question because so many people in this case claim to be nurses and then you find out they're not. But a supposed nurse friend moved in for a month or so. Doesn't it seem kind of obvious that somebody in that house needed help if they had people moving in and calling daily? I think he was stuck in a situation where he had little Bella there worrying sick about what would happen to her if he wasn't there to make sure she was safe. And then I think in December of 2016, I think she got caught. I think she should have been prosecuted. And I think that Bella and Cece should have been removed from the home right then and there. Instead, I think they put a family plan in place as part of the model program where they were trying to keep the kids in the home instead of removing them. And I think that part of her plan was that she couldn't be alone with the girls. And I think that there were certain people who were supposed to be there. Because remember, her parents moved out suddenly. Right after that whole December 2016 situation. Her parents moved out suddenly right after Cindy Watts babysat while Christopher Watts and his wife went on their supposedly free vacation. Like, let's define free. Pay thousands of dollars a month and pretend like you've got a job, and you might be able to get some cheaper pricing on your hotel room. And then suddenly her parents moved out. And then, wasn't it her mom's friend who became her quote unquote friend? But wasn't she into some kind of a nursing career also? Was there a string of caregivers throughout the entire 5.5-year marriage? Was Christopher Watts supposed to be the caregiver in the evenings? Is that why the girls went to bed at 6:30? Was the 6:30 bedtime part of the family plan? Did she actually stay in the room on the main floor? Was that her room? Because remember the video she made, I'm in my bedroom. And just a few seconds later, she said, I'm in my office, as if she didn't hear herself with her first statement. If there was a family plan in place, if they were already on the radar, if she was already on the radar, remember, she was an endangered missing person. Why? But if there was a family plan in place, then I definitely believe that that family plan was allowed to go on for far too long, based on all of the social media posts that we've seen that Christopher Watt's wife put online. Just my opinion. If there was a family plan in place, that means that CPS had the opportunity to protect Bella and Cece. That means law enforcement had the opportunity to protect Bella and Cece. That means the court had an opportunity to protect Bella and Cece. It also means that anybody at all who knew of any difficulties had the opportunity to help protect Bella and Cece. And then what happened when tragedy struck? All of a sudden, there were all sorts of lies about Christopher Watt's wife that were thrown all over the internet. Oh, she was highly successful. She was a retired nurse. They presented that wedding as if it was her first wedding for the first few months. They presented the car as if she had earned it. Even that ridiculous little magazine article, you know that anybody who signed up for that MLM had the opportunity to be put in that little magazine. And my hunch is that they probably had to pay a pretty penny to be featured in it. No doubt the MLM would accept credit cards for payment. Was it moving day? Was that the day that she was supposed to leave the house? Was she not even supposed to be at the house at that point? Was it okay for her to be at the house as long as there were others there supervising her? Was she pissed? Did she just find out that that was moving day if it was? Could that be it? Could it be that she just found out that she was getting moved out of the house? If that was moving day, who was there to help? This may seem totally off topic, but it isn't. Why didn't her good friend know how old she was? Why didn't her good friend have her in her wedding party when she got married during the 6-week break she had over the summer? That would make sense if you were actually employed as a caregiver to get married during a 6-week break. If she was actually Christopher Watt's wife's caregiver, then it would make sense, right, that when Christopher Watt's wife was gone, she would plan her wedding for that time frame. If they were such close friends, then why didn't her friend have any clue how old she was? Do your friends have regular contact with your mother? You know, there's a lot said about how Cindy Watts had contact with Christopher Watt's best friend, as if that was a terrible thing. That was his best friend since first grade. I think since the first grade or since kindergarten. Cindy Watts was best friends with that kid's mother for years. And the scumbag attackers have attacked Cindy Watts over and over again for having any discussions with a friend. Even though she watched the kid grow up, it was her son's best friend all through grade school, all through high school. And she was best friends with the kid's mother. So to me, that would seem appropriate that she would be talking with him. But how appropriate is it for the person who claimed to be such a good friend of Christopher Watt's wife, who didn't even know how old she was or have a clue, how appropriate is that for her to be in regular and constant contact with her mother? And I know they had met, they were friends. That's how she met Christopher Watt's wife. But still, could it be she was a caregiver? Could it be that she was checking in? Could it be that's why she was so concerned so early in the morning? After just mere hours after she drove her home? Who was the person who was there? You know, Christopher Watts said something like she wasn't supposed to be there. Who? Could it be that his wife wasn't supposed to be there? Could that be? Samantha says they definitely weren't close friends. Did you see the way NA used to look at her? You mean when they'd line up and do the sideways thing with the hand on the hip routine? Well, maybe that was part of the caregiving role, was to sign up for the MLM along with her, so she'd have somebody watching over her behavior when she went to those sales training seminars. It is completely different, Samantha. I agree. I agree. It is completely different. But I think it's interesting because one thing that I learned about the scumbag attackers, whatever they're accusing other people of, you can usually kind of connect the dots and go, aha. So if it was so inappropriate for Cindy Watts to have phone contact with one of Christopher Watts' friends, I guess how appropriate is it for one of Christopher Watts' wife's friends to be in regular contact with her mother? Samantha says, my friends don't know my knives. Hey, Kay Cooper. Christopher Watts' mother-in-law told the friend to check the knives. Check the knives for what? Was there a history of self-harm? Is that why there was a hefty life insurance policy in place that did not list Christopher Watts or the children as beneficiaries? Do you know any married woman who doesn't list her husband and children as her beneficiaries? Kay Cooper says the knife situation is obviously a red flag. It sure is. It sure is. Check the knives. So does that mean that she attempted suicide in the past? Was there a history of attempted suicide? Is that why she was listed as an endangered missing person? Yes, Kay Cooper. Did she have a history of attempting to harm others? We learned from her father that she evidently was able to kick other people. She had strong legs, remember? I don't know. Was she kicking emergency medical personnel? Was she kicking some intake worker? Was she kicking the police at some point? There was something. Otherwise, exactly, Samantha. Why was she an endangered missing person? What was her history? And what was the rush with that court case? What was the big rush? Have you ever seen a court case go that fast? I don't know. If there was a history of self harm, if there was a history of domestic violence, if there was a history of child abuse, if there was a history of mental illness, if there was a history of drug abuse, if there was a history of threats and stalking. Remember that guy who hopped up on the panel that time and said that he and his wife had to change their phone numbers because she refused to leave them alone? Well, if there was a history of any or all of the above, could that help explain the rush? You know, which department might have egg on their face? Which department might have some splaining to do? That's an old Lucy and Ricardo joke, you guys. Kay Cooper says, I think there was a history of all of the above with SW. She was a nutcase. I agree with you, Kay Cooper. Hey, Mrs. Fluffer's here. Hey, guys. Hi, Mrs. Fluffer. I think there was a history of all of the above. I think Bella and Cece should have been removed from that home. I think Christopher Watts should have been given the opportunity, day one of trouble, to be able to have custody of those kids. And I think instead they did the family plan. Samantha says she's shocked that the police spun the successful businesswoman storyline. I think it's disgusting, the crap that we've been fed about how successful she was. If she was successful, then what was going on with her credit cards and bill collectors and bankruptcies? Good point, Bella. Bella says the demeanor of little Bella shows the lack of maternal care and how unsafe, unsure that baby felt. It is so evident in those videos. I do not believe she had a bond with those girls at all. Did you check out Thought Provoking Videos' latest videos? Remember we were talking about that one last night, and then there was a second one? The one showing, I think, what Thought Provoking Videos was labeling a personality disorder issue. It's the one, oh, you want a laptop routine? She wasn't connected to Bella. Not at all. And I've got news for you. The way she treated Bella about which one do you want, and then Bella said which one she wanted, and then she was like taunting her and mocking her, and she didn't choose the one that Bella wanted, even though she asked her which one. Bella told her, and she went with the other one. And did she give Bella a bite? Oh, not until she sat there and took a bite, and then she said she earned it. She earned it. She was absolutely emotionally abusive to Bella in that video. If you haven't seen it yet, take a look at it. It's at Thought Provoking Videos, and there have been 2 new videos loaded like in the last 6 days, uploaded. Take a look at it. It is very disturbing. She was taunting Bella. She was emotionally abusive to Bella. You know, if she's given her Benadryl and Tylenol, she's given her lots of Tylenol, she's dragging her to one doctor after another. She's convincing one doctor that she needed surgery. She's taking her rectal temp on a daily basis. She's posting ridiculous pictures of Bella and ridiculous videos of Bella crying. She's mocking her. She's name-calling her. She's taking photos of poor little Bella with her face covered with a blanket or covered with a pillow while she was sleeping. How much does somebody have to abuse a child and post evidence of the abuse online before they are stopped? Before the child is actually protected? What more do they need to see the abuse? Who posts a photo of a child falling headfirst down the stairs? Who posts a photo of a child trying to stick a toy up her wazoo? You know that doll picture? Who does that? And then after tragedy hits, right away, it's the fall guy, Christopher Watts. Well, we're told how successful his wife was. Successful at what? What was she ever successful at? Did she even graduate from high school? And I don't care if somebody did or didn't, but don't tell me she was successful when we don't even think, quite frankly, that she graduated from high school. Because you know what? If she had, of course, now that I say this, we'll probably see pictures all over the place. If she graduated from high school, don't you think we would have seen her high school graduation photo yet by this point in time? Don't you think we would have been told she was a cheerleader and a pom-pommer and on the tennis team? And, come on. I think she probably dropped out of school when she was 15 or 16 years old. I think, the doctors may have used the term migraine, but I think there was a hell of a lot more going on when she was a teenager. A hell of a lot more. I think she missed a lot of school, and I don't think it was because of any actual migraine. I think she had mental illness hit her hard when she was a teenager. And I don't think she functioned very well at school. And I think that interview with that teacher pretty much says so. Did you read the letter that she had sent to that teacher? She told him he was like a second father for her. Huh? I think she had severe mental illness issues going on while she was in school. So I just I just shake my head. People are still trying to push the narrative that she was so successful. Successful at what? Successful at sitting on her ass all day while her husband tried to work double time to support the family and to keep up with her spending? Successful at avoiding ever having to be a parent? Successful at avoiding ever having to even do her own laundry? Successful at raising two children who were afraid of the dirt and the rain? And poor little Bella was afraid that Cece would drop dead if someone gave her some kind of fruit? She was successful, all right, in some areas, like, for example, scaring the shit out of the kids, promoting fear, instilling fear in little Bella. She was successful at showing us over and over again with her videos that she didn't mind emotionally abusing Bella. Look at the video where she said to Bella, "Do you need a haircut?" It's right there for everyone to see. And if there was an ongoing family matter, then whoever was responsible for supervising that family plan had a responsibility to expedite any request of the court. The second that Christopher Watt's wife posted her shit online, she said she gave both girls lots of Tylenol. If there was a family plan in place, they should have knocked on the door and taken the girls. She stood there and admitted on a video that she posted on social media that she gave the girls lots of Tylenol. That's enough, folks. That's enough right there to know that she was dealing with some strange little, I think, Munchausen by proxy. At the very minimum, it was medical abuse. You do not give small children lots of Tylenol. That's medical abuse. And the handful of people who liked that post evidently didn't care. So, what happened with the case of Christopher Watts? Was the need to keep secrets so important that the truth just doesn't even matter? Was the need to keep certain secrets so important that Bella and Cece didn't matter too? Was the life insurance policy one that excluded payout in the event of a suicide? Was there a will? Was there a written will? And if so, where did it go? We saw the quitclaim deed disappear. Did a will disappear too? I do believe that Cindy Watts knows details of Christopher Watts' wife's life that she is expected to be too afraid to ever tell. Well, I say, tell the secret you know, Cindy Watts. Tell the secret you know. Maybe then other children who are being medically abused and mocked and taunted and tormented and pushed to tears, maybe they can be safer if their parents actually get help. I think it's time for Cindy Watts to tell what she knows about Christopher Watts' wife's life, that Christopher Watts' wife confided in her. I think it's time for Cindy Watts to come clean with what she knows. I think it's time for Cindy Watts to stand up for herself and to put a stop to all the bullshit stories that are being told about her. They go on and on, the scumbag attackers, how Cindy Watts never cared about Bella and Cece. That's total bullshit. Oh, Cindy Watts didn't want that marriage. Well, okay, maybe she didn't, and maybe nobody else in the Watts family did either, and maybe Christopher Watts would have been smart to have joined them. But she treated her daughter-in-law well for 5.5 years. Until the day she finally said, "Get out of my house." And I don't blame her one bit. The children were afraid of, quote, the look in Christopher Watts' wife's eyes. The children were afraid of the look in her eyes. Telling her to get out of her house was the healthy thing to do. It's too bad she didn't dial 911 first. Be that as it may, I think it's time for Cindy Watts to become vocal about what she knows. Because maybe if those details were known, then we wouldn't be the only channel having an actual discussion on the case who include many of us who believe that Christopher Watts never killed anybody. And before anyone starts screaming, "It's a closed case," to that I say, well, so is the case of Stephen Avery. So is the case of Casey Anthony, by the way, and so is the case of O.J. Simpson. And we'll discuss those cases too. It is time. Bella says, I believe Cindy is struggling daily with coming forward. I believe she will. Kay Cooper says, I agree, MM. It's time. It is time. It's time for the Watts family to give a shit about all of us who have been getting attacked for 3 years straight. They need to come out with the truth. They need to come out with what they know. Because the details that her daughter-in-law confided in her make perfect sense with what we know from Christopher Watts' wife's own social media posts. Samantha says, Cindy thinks she won't be believed and she's ashamed as her family. I don't know what that means. Well, I think Cindy needs to become vocal. If not for her son, if not for herself, she needs to become vocal for Bella and Cece. Somebody needs to care about what happened to Bella and Cece. Somebody needs to care about what was happening to Bella and Cece all of their lives. Somebody besides us, meaning Cindy Watts, needs to be brave and tell what she knows. Kay Cooper says it's time for the girls' stories to be told truthfully. Exactly right. Bella says Jamie has prevented her from speaking. Shame on Jamie. I agree with you. I think that Jamie has been involved with some nasty people and telling Cindy what to do and what not to do. But it's on Cindy's shoulders to speak up. Bella and Cece deserve for Cindy Watts to tell what she knows. Take a look at those channels that jumped right in when, according to one of the channel creators, Jamie contacted her and said, it's time. And then take a look at that one audio that was leaked, I guess, of Cindy saying that she kept telling that one channel creator that she wanted her to tell the story. Well, with all the storytelling that went on, I haven't heard anybody tell what Cindy Watts knows. Why? Why haven't we heard from the Watts family all about the accusation that Christopher Watts' wife was taking photos of Jamie's naked children? Why haven't we heard Jamie being vocal about that? Why hasn't Cindy been vocal about that? Kay Cooper says, do y'all also get the feeling that the R's pretty much only cared about making Christopher Watts' wife look like a victim and not the girls? Well, I guess with those social media posts that Christopher Watts' wife put right online, it sure seems to me that it should be obvious to the world that the only victims in this case were Bella and Cece. But oh, Christopher Watts' wife was so successful. She was a retired nurse. That alone is so disgusting. It is so disgusting. Did she even make it through one term at a community college? What was it, the English literature class that they classify as a number 99 because it doesn't count for college credit, but it helps get you ready to take classes at the community college? Retired nurse? Really? Nurse Nene? Successful? Successful at what? At forging signatures, possibly on a what's known as an income to debt form or an income verification form or any of the other forms necessary to buy the house with less than 5% down? Was she successful at conning people out of their money? Was she successful at holding that fundraiser for lupus, saying, hey, if you're going to, give cash, we're going to extend this for a couple of weeks so you can just, you can just give it to me and I'll make sure that it gets sent into the Lupus Foundation. Kay Cooper says, successful manipulator. I think Cindy Watts should pick her favorite little whichever one. I don't know. I know one of them claims that she's done more for the Watts family than anybody else. Like, who has done anything for the Watts family? Nobody. Nobody at all. And she didn't articulate exactly to what it was. I think she said she got a lawyer or something. Like, yeah, sure. Bella says Jamie's worried about her career. Enough time has passed and Cindy needs to have her voice heard. Definitely for Bella and Celeste, and secondary for her son. I have no doubt about the fact that Cindy loved Bella and Cece with all her heart. I have no doubt. And I think for that reason alone, she should be telling the truth about what she knows. Kay Cooper says, I think good old Dr. Phil should have the Watts on. I agree, Kay Cooper. I agree. I think it's time for the Watts side of the story to be told. And I think it's time for Cindy Watts to tell the secrets that she knows. Sophia said, I wanted to mention that video when SW is in the bedroom with Cece and Bella was calling her and she kept ignoring her and telling her in a minute, hang on. But then Bella softly said, hurry, it hurts. Yep, Mother of the Year, that's for sure. You know how we've been getting attacked by the scumbag attackers and how we watch other channels do all their scripted bullshit? Kind of makes me wonder sometimes if maybe Christopher Watt's wife wasn't a scumbag attacker online. If maybe she wasn't part of one of these organized packs of animals who run around harassing people. You know, that one guy who hopped up on our panel and said he and his wife had to change their phone numbers because she wouldn't leave them alone. They met online. She went real life. It makes me wonder, did she work for one of these organizations that promises to repair your reputation after people they're connected with attempted to destroy your reputation? What did she do online? Could that explain why the attacks against innocent people started immediately? Was she already connected to scumbag attackers when she was alive? You know, a lot of us have noticed that many of the scumbag attackers admit to being on disability and they admit to being mentally ill and they admit to having criminal records. Where else are they going to earn a little cash? Kay Cooper says the police didn't talk to CW, meaning Cindy Watts. Dr. Phil didn't talk to Cindy Watts. Dr. Oz didn't talk to Cindy Watts. So it's time. Let's get the real story. Cindy Watts did tell me what her daughter-in-law claimed. And I have no doubt that if people discussing this case heard what Cindy said her daughter-in-law claimed, that it would be another puzzle piece fitting right into place. Quite a few puzzle pieces, as a matter of fact. And it would all make sense. You know, I didn't listen to Cindy Watts telling me what her daughter-in-law claimed and say, oh my goodness, that's surprising. I wouldn't have thought that. I listened to Cindy Watts telling me what her daughter-in-law claimed, and I thought, yep, I suspected that from the start. Christopher Watts' wife had some very scary demons going on. She also had a behavior pattern that was very scary. She also had a history of mocking her husband, mocking her children, and posting inappropriate content on social media. She had a history of doctor shopping for the girls. She had a history of making ridiculous false claims specific to medical issues. She had a history of giving the children medication to put them to sleep on a daily basis. She had a history of evidently overdosing the children on Tylenol, because you cannot tell me that lots of Tylenol means the standard dose. Had she given the girls the standard dose, the recommended dose for their age and their size, then obviously she wouldn't have said she gave them lots of Tylenol. She had a history. She had a pattern. And it's time for Cindy Watts to speak the truth of what she knows. Kay Cooper says there's always two sides, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. Actually, Kay Cooper, when it comes to domestic violence and child abuse, there are not always two sides. And that's an issue within the circles of advocates for survivors of domestic violence and child abuse. That's the central theme, actually, because there are not always two sides. There is the truth of what occurred, and then there's trying to make it less serious. If a child is abused, then the truth is the child was abused. But the other side of the story obviously would be, well, they're just a strict disciplinarian, or, they're just a helicopter mom who just wanted to give the kids medication because she was so worried about them. Or she just took them to the emergency room all the time because she was worried about them. Right? That's the other side of the story. Well, the truth is, if children are being medically abused, they're being medically abused. And it doesn't matter to me if the mom is mentally ill, if there are children, because obviously if you're going to medically abuse your children, you're mentally weird. If the children are being abused, they deserve to be protected, regardless of their mother's history. Abuse is exactly, Kay Cooper. Here we go again in stereo. Kay Cooper says, I meant between the two families, and I agree. Abuse is abuse. Bottom line. Exactly. Exactly right. I do think Cindy Watts needs to become vocal, whether or not her daughter wants her to. Cindy Watts should become vocal for Bella and Cece. Bella and Cece deserve for their story, for their suffering, for their life experiences to be told. They deserve it. Bella and Cece deserve for the truth to be told. And their Mimi, Cindy Watts, has the ability to tell the truth about what Bella and Cece suffered through. Cindy Watts could very well become the voice for Bella and Cece. And so could Christopher Watts, too. But I have a feeling he's just hunkering down, happy that it's over. I don't know. Wanting to just keep all the secrets secret. Figuring, nothing will bring his children back. He's lost everything. When he lost Bella and Cece, he lost everything. So he's just hunkering down, I think, like, oh, just let it be done. Let it be done. Tennyson says there's that fake save video where SW is holding Cece and out of nowhere pretends to almost drop Cece, and she saved her. LOL. Yes. Is that the one where she showed a photo of her bruise on her hand and then a big goose egg on Cece's head? I thought her videos were very strange, where she would hide behind the doorway and video Cece, who was hanging off the counter, afraid she was going to fall. But then I got to thinking, maybe she wasn't allowed to go into the room. Maybe whoever was there to help wasn't paying attention. Kay Cooper says, I actually haven't seen her videos in a long time. Are they still up? I think there's been a lot of scrubbing going on. I think they listen to our live chats and hear about which videos we're discussing, and then they scrub. I notice a lot of the slanderous and defamatory crap has been scrubbed too. You know, there are a lot of channels talking about cease and desist letters, and a lot of channels talking about court cases and court action. Well, there are a lot of channels that are scrubbing a lot of evidence, because here's the basic fact. I think it would be really hard for anybody who has posted defamatory crap against others to ever win any court action, period. Whether or not they scrub their little abusive comments and videos. What is with all of these fundraisers? Have you seen how many channels are doing fundraisers? For what? Have you seen how many channels are proclaiming that all sorts of people are going to be going to jail and all sorts of people are going to get sued? Well, guess what? A lot of those same people who are proclaiming that are guilty of harassing others. They're guilty of doxing others. They're guilty of threatening others. They're guilty of defamation. They're guilty of slander. They're guilty of libel. They're guilty of intentional infliction of emotional distress. And they have the gall to say they're going to sue someone else? They have the gall to hold their hand out and say, give us lots of money so we can sue people? Sophia says the SW's speech was stunted. She had an extremely limited vocabulary, and I think she probably had a very low IQ. Very low. Bella says that little Bella's abuse and neglect started at such a very young age, such a very young and crucial age. Her emotional and verbal development was stunted. Celeste was put on a pedestal and something over in front of Bella. I don't think Celeste was put on a pedestal at all. I think both girls suffered abuse and neglect. I think when you look at Celeste at age 3, and she acted like she was 12 months old, 15 months old, whatever. I think she suffered abuse and neglect right along with Bella. I think the reason that Cece had more of a free-for-all attitude was because she had her older sister Bella always right there. She had like a security net with Bella, where Bella, I think, had all the stress on her own shoulders, trying to protect Cece and herself. Exactly, Kay Cooper. They do listen to us and they go, uh-oh, we better get rid of that one. Tennyson says that she was pretty limber for someone with lupus. Yeah, and for someone with lupus, it's pretty amazing that the autopsy report said she was healthy, too. I think if she had lupus, it would have shown up on her autopsy report. Bella says, yes, Casey, they can't stand it. MM is the voice for those babies. Cindy needs to step up and speak. She has so much support. Sophia says, SW speech, I already said that one. Kay Cooper says, I would never hold a fundraiser, ever. You know, before the stupid case of Christopher Watts, I didn't know what a GoFundMe was. But look at how many GoFundMes there have been and how many fundraisers. It's just weird, you guys. It's just weird. Goo says, I think SW was manic. I think she was manic during her videos, but I don't think she was manic all of the time. I think she was Looney Tunes for sure. But I think when she was in her manic phase, I think that's when she did her videos. Goo says, but if Chris is truly innocent, why didn't he appeal or say what happened? Well, if Chris was truly a battered husband, then his behavior is exactly how a battered wife would have acted. MJ's here. MJ says, hi, all. Sophia says, I bet the abuse off camera was something else. Oh, I bet it was horrid. Kay Cooper says, I think both were abused, but Bella was abused more because Bella looked and acted like her dad, and SW hated that. I think you're right. Yes, Jeanette. Quote, don't take Cece away. Was that the same video when Bella had that nervous tick and then she tried to hide it really fast? I think that Christopher Watts' wife spent the majority of her time in that main floor room that she would call her office. I think that's where she was kept, actually. I think she had serious behavioral problems. I think there were a lot of people who believed that Bella and Cece were in danger. And I think it's time for Cindy Watts to tell what she knows. Sophia mentions how the girls appeared to look healthier and happier in North Carolina. That's not exactly what Sophia said. That's what I said. Think about that. Think about that if you were a caseworker assigned to the case and you noticed a visible difference in the girl's appearance and overall health. There was a case of Munchausen by proxy where the mom was a vocal advocate for patient rights and everything. And she had a daughter who was sick and on a feeding, some kind of a feeding thing or whatever. And they took the daughter away, and the daughter was healthy. And that mom got sent to prison. And that's exactly where I think Christopher Watt's wife belonged. Based on the information that we've been told about December of 2016 and the months following that time frame, and also the spring of 2016 and the months leading up to December of 2016, based on all that information, I firmly believe that Christopher Watt's wife should have been sent to prison in December of 2016. Sophia said she was shocked by how much weight Bella had put on in North Carolina in 2018. And think about that. She weighed just a couple pounds more than Cece. There's something else, you guys, for those of you who are moms and grandmas and even aunts, and you've taken on your kids' friends as you're their auntie kind of thing. For any of you with any experience helping to raise children, okay, notice something about Bella and Cece. Have you ever known two children in a family to be glued to each other's side? Or have you known children in families to have a little bit of independence and their own interests and their own paths? Bella and Cece were always right next to each other. What does that tell you? Exactly, Tennyson. That's my thought. And that maybe they both were feeling fearful of their surroundings. Tennyson said all they had was each other. Bella said they were each other's identity. But you know what I'm saying? When you're taking the family videos, you've got one kid running this way, going to play with whatever, and you've got another kid running that way. And sometimes you even have the kids tugging on the same toy, right? Or having a tussle. Did you ever see in any of those hundreds of videos, did you ever see Bella and Cece acting like two normal, healthy children? If there was a family plan in place, then there should have been trained and well-educated professionals who should have picked up on that little detail. Because in my opinion, nothing says abuse like seeing two children who are glued to each other's side. Here's a new name. I haven't seen this name before. Kristen. Kristen says, it is so refreshing to hear you raise these questions. So thank you. I totally agree with what you're saying. I hope we find out the truth soon. It has been so one-sided from day one. And then she said, those poor babies. I agree, Kristen. And I think it's time, again, like I'll say it probably 100 more times before we finish with this live chat. I think it's time for Cindy Watts to tell what she knows. Because she knows a lot. Jeanette says never. I think the truth has come out in a lot of ways. I think, there are a lot of truths that are simply obvious to many of us. Kristen says, I'm a nurse for 20 years. I see a big case of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. I think the Munchausen is so flipping obvious. There are so many examples of it. Her claim that the girls had familial Mediterranean fever is laughable. Absolutely laughable. It makes me wonder, we've been told that she had twins that were taken at birth. It makes me wonder if possibly the twins had familial Mediterranean fever, and she may have been told that at some point, and she may have said, oh, she may have, rushed right to the disability website to see if familial Mediterranean fever was one of them on the list. Bella says Cindy owes it to Bella and Celeste. Cindy needs to speak so no other child lives what they lived. Exactly. I agree with you. Kay Cooper says, I think the people who are sticking up for SW have the same wicked personality that she had. I agree with you. Bella says, and uneducated, Casey. Uneducated, criminal records, criminal history, drug abuse, losing custody of their children. Don't you think it's interesting that one of SW's relatives had the effing gall to post defamatory comments claiming that I lost custody of my children? Really? Isn't that interesting when we're being told over and over again that his sister lost custody of twins at birth? And there was an ongoing family matter, and she was asking her husband if he'd stay with her if they didn't have kids? It was an absolute lie that he posted about me. An absolute lie. And once again, anytime the false accusations are made against those of us who have been getting attacked by the scumbag attackers, anytime we can take that accusation and go, well, let's dig into the case of Christopher Watts and see what we see. And gee golly, it always lines up. We were told by the scumbag attackers, the world was told by the scumbag attackers that those of us they were attacking had all filed bankruptcies. Total bullshit. I've never filed any bankruptcy. I've never been a part of any bankruptcy. But that was one of their little dances that they were playing. And guess what? We dug in and we found out that Christopher Watts' wife quite likely entered into that marriage with a hell of a lot of debt. We were accused of lying about our careers. Oh, you mean she wasn't really a nurse? We were accused of lying about our education. Really? In fact, the scumbag attacker said that the college I earned my degree in psychology from doesn't even exist. We dug in just a little and found out that the nursing program that she claimed had accepted her didn't even exist. Over and over again, the scumbag attackers lie about those of us they're attacking. We're accused of being adulterers, and not one of us being attacked have ever committed adultery. But then we found that handy dandy little post by Christopher Watts' wife saying that it would take drastic measures for her to be with the one she truly belonged with. over and over again. And then the audacity of him to post libelous and defamatory content claiming that I lost custody of my kids was a total lie. And then the phone calls started. People wanting us to know all about the twins. Kristen says those kids were not protected. It's so sad. And it seemed to be so obvious. That whole familial Mediterranean fever crap, my goodness. Who was overseeing that case? Surgery? Both girls needed surgery on the same day? Both girls taken to one doctor after another, with the mother insisting they had asthma, and then voila, suddenly they do, even though doctor after doctor said no, they don't. And then poof, what are the statistical chances that two children would both be diagnosed with asthma at the same time? 0. What are the statistical chances that two children would have asthma? That two children would need surgery on the same day? That two children would be sick at the same time? Both kids are sick again. There was so much evidence of Munchausen by proxy. Publicly posted evidence of Munchausen by proxy. And nobody did anything to protect those babies? Tennyson said, if both of my kids needed surgery, it would not be on the same day. Exactly. But Tennyson, my hunch is that you probably don't wear scrubs. My hunch is that you probably haven't lied about ever being accepted into a nursing program. My hunch is that you've probably never given your children too much Tylenol. My hunch is that you probably didn't dope up your kids at night to stuff them in bed for 12 hours straight. My hunch is that if you ever had to use a nebulizer for your kids, that pretty much you'd be very careful about what was put in that nebulizer. Sammy Terry says, I can't understand why SW's family is so hyper-focused on removing a UK man from YouTube. He's not the only one discussing theories, though I don't agree with his theories. Well, just my opinion, Sammy. I think that UK man is all part of the same team as those who are online claiming that they're trying to bring him down. Take a look at all the channels. Just step back and look at the channels. Look at everyone who's fighting with each other. You know, all the virtue signaling that's going on. I think the way to say it is same shit, different day. I think the fighting with each other is a bunch of fabricated bullshit. And quite frankly, if the UK man is not involved with the bullshit, he has the right to discuss true crime cases. As do we, as does everybody. He has the right to discuss true crime cases. If anybody thinks they're going to get him taken down, then they might want to hop on over to the Stephen Avery discussion groups and see for themselves that the public has the right to discuss true crime cases that are on the public stage, even if somebody's already been convicted. Even if the case is closed. You know, I'm so tired of hearing that. The case is closed. So what? That's what true crimers do. We discuss closed cases. Every once in a blue moon, we'll discuss an open case, but pretty much we discuss closed cases. And there are a lot of people on each and every case that true crimers discuss who disagree with each other about whether or not the person is guilty. It doesn't mean anybody is harassing anybody for having an opinion that the case of Christopher Watts is full of bullshit. And I'll just cover one more little tidbit too. The whole idea, oh, you're slandering a dead woman. Bullshit. There's no such thing. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not going to apologize for giving a shit that Bella and Cece were treated like shit. Bella and Cece deserve to have people actually looking at this case and going, hokey Pete. What can society do better in the future to help protect other children? That is a noble cause. That is a virtuous purpose. Period. And this whole idea that you can't talk about a dead person because they're dead? Are we allowed to talk about Hitler? He's dead. He's dead. Does that mean we can't talk about him? Should we just forget about the whole idea of any history lessons? Should we just ignore anything negative? Or should we care about the people who suffered because of his actions? If anybody wants to comment, if you're on another channel and you comment and somebody comes after you and says, how dare you? How dare you talk ill of the dead? You can respond with, you're damn right I dare, because I care about what happened to Bella and Cece. And if you're not noticing the suffering that poor little Bella and Cece endured, then shame on you. You just flip their little shame fumes right back at them. Right back at them. We have nothing to apologize for when we're the only channel that gives a shit about Bella and Cece. Shame on each and every one of those who don't. I guess if they're okay with dosing up kids, if they're okay with giving them too much Tylenol, if they're okay with having kids endure surgery, look at the timing of those surgeries for those poor little girls. Look at the timing. And do you know any 4-year-old who's had pneumonia already? Really? How about an almost 3-year-old who's had pneumonia already? That should have been enough right there to put them on a radar. Why the hell do they have 2 little girls who have had pneumonia, for Pete's sake? Pneumonia is serious. How is it that 2 little girls ended up with pneumonia? The warning flags were flying. They were lighted at night. They were obvious. And society should have stepped in and removed those children. And in my opinion, if what we're being told about the blood work on those little girls when they suddenly became very ill after their mother was alone with them, if that's true, and I think it was exactly how it played out, if that's true, she belonged in prison. Kristen says, Amen. I believe they just had enough. The Watts always never seem to do anything right. The Watts were being attacked immediately. The people who were interviewed by law enforcement seem to all be following the same script. How many times did we hear people who were being interviewed by law enforcement saying that Cindy Watts didn't even go to the wedding? Who gives a shit? Who cares? This was not their first wedding. This was not the love story of the century with a young couple, ooh, so in love. It was a very small affair, a very small get together. Just because they had some shitty tuxes that they rented and a strange looking wedding dress doesn't turn it into a pageant. You know, we're not a bunch of numbskulls here. We're not a bunch of dipshits here. We've had beautiful weddings. Our children have had beautiful weddings. Our friends' children have had beautiful weddings. We know what a beautiful wedding looks like. That was not a beautiful wedding. That was a cheesy get-together. From, I guess, the appearance, I don't know, with that dress, was supposedly, you know, like it was her first wedding. It wasn't. It wasn't. Big deal if people decided not to go. So what? Do you know what I was told? I was told they made something like $10 on the dollar dance. Have you ever attended a wedding and a wedding reception where the bride and groom only made $10 on the dollar dance? I mean, I remember 1965, 1968, 1972. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars were made on the dollar dances. And I don't just mean a few hundred. I'm talking probably a couple thousand. And we're being told they made $10 on the dollar dance? What's that tell ya? Must have been a short song. That wedding was not the wedding of the century. What about the first wedding? If people are going to tell law enforcement that Christopher Watts' mother didn't even go to the wedding, could we please know who didn't go to the first wedding? Obviously, if that matters, years later, then let's hear the full story. Who missed the first wedding? Who wasn't at the first wedding? How much did she make on the dollar dance at the first wedding? Oh, wait, did they even have a reception? Did anybody attend the first wedding? Why did she have a dress on that went to her knees? Why didn't she go all out in the first wedding with, you know, the little Disney World princess dress, right? With her boobs hanging out. Where are the pictures from the first wedding? Where's the graduation photo from high school? Where are the friends from high school? Where are the friends, period? Christopher Watts had lifelong friends, and lots of them. Where were his wife's friends? People who she knew basically online and maybe met up with a couple times a year at weekend sales training seminars? Really? Here's the other part of it. Well, everyone's running around going, oh, she had lupus, yet she was healthy. Well, everyone's saying, oh, she had high risk pregnancies. Really? I think if she ever had a high risk pregnancy, it had something to do with mental illness, quite frankly. All of those issues, number one, it would certainly help every lupus sufferer, every true lupus sufferer, not to have some yahoo running around saying she was cured. And number two, if there was documented acts of self-harm or harming others, if there were diagnoses, then why is it that we're all supposed to just pretend it away? Carol says the tuxes were hideous. There were no friends from school. She was bullied, so her friend was the guidance counselor guy. He wasn't a guidance counselor. He was the theater teacher. I think he was her teacher when she was in the 9th grade. The 9th grade. What's that tell ya? And it sounds like she spent a lot of time with him. And she leaned on him and depended on him. Because in her letter, remember, she said he was like a father to her. And here's, I guess, my take on it. I don't think she was ever bullied at all. I think she was mentally ill, and I think she missed a lot of school. And I think that her mental illness played out in her relationships. The teacher did seem weird. I agree. Okay, Cooper. M says the teacher's story was cringe. I agree. But I think even more cringeworthy is that a 9th grader felt like he was like a dad to her. Sue says, I think the theater teacher was obviously teaching her a lot more than acting lessons. I think she was mentally ill. Serious, serious, serious mental illness. And I'll tell you something. I was telling you guys how when the scumbag attackers attacked those of us they targeted, one of their accusations, which is total bullshit for any of us they attack, but one of their accusations that they have said about many of us who they have been targeting is they accuse us of having had a baby when we were 14 years old. They've said it so many times about so many of us, and of course, none of us who they've been targeting have had a baby at all when we were 14 years old, for Pete's sake. But again, it sure seems to me that everything the scumbag attackers are accusing us of, that those accusations all seem to fit Christopher Watt's wife. So if they're going to say over and over again to those of us they're attacking, if they're going to attempt to defame us and slander us and commit libel against us by saying that we had a baby when we were 14 years old, then it only takes a few of those accusations before we start to go, I wonder if Christopher Watt's wife had a baby when she was 14 years old. Well, how old are you in the 9th grade? Think about it. How old are you in the 9th grade? Why are the scumbag attackers repeatedly, and I'm talking for 3 years, why are they repeatedly saying that those of us they're attacking had babies when we were 14? Is this kind of like how they accuse us of lying about our career And then we find out, oh, wait a minute, she wasn't an executive of a billion-dollar company. She was never a nurse, right? Lying about her education, bullshit. But she was lying about her education. Exactly, Sandy. You're 13 to 14 years old in the ninth grade. Who was the one teacher who came forward after the tragedy? Her ninth grade teacher. You know, the scumbag attackers run around going, oh, Miss Mentz is accusing Christopher Watt's wife of bad things. No, let me give you the timeline of how it really works, assholes. The scumbag attackers accuse Miss Mensa and many others, those of us they're attacking, those of us they're targeting. The scumbag attackers accuse us of all sorts of bullshit. And over again, we take what they accuse us of and we dig into the case just a little bit, and we find out that what they're accusing us of applies to Christopher Watt's wife. We didn't set out to dig in and find the dirt on her. Not that it was hard to do. We only dug in when we saw their accusations and thought, where the hell is this crap coming from? And then we said, gee, I wonder. And we dug in just a little bit. And we learned about the bankruptcy, and we learned about the spending, and we learned about the previous marriage, and we learned about the lies about her career and the lies about her education. They also accused us of being child abusers. Ding, ding, ding. Didn't take long for us to figure that one out. And then they accused us of having babies when we were 14. Do you see any photos of her as a teenager? How many pregnancies did she have? How difficult to her mental health and well-being were those pregnancies? How many times did she not go home at night? We know it was a pattern in her first or whatever marriage. And remember, when Cindy learned that she was missing, she said, she'll be back. She's just trying to stick it to her son, right? She'll show him. What that tells me is that wasn't the first time she pulled a disappearing act. Kristen, are you talking about Christopher Watt's wife when you say something interesting? 0 records found when checking for a nursing license on the state board web? Because she was never a nurse. The scumbag attackers have been promoting that fallacy for 3 years straight. She was never a nurse. There was a book printed within a couple of weeks of the tragedy hitting the headlines claiming that she was a retired nurse. She was never a nurse. She claimed that she wanted to become a nurse. That was a couple of weeks after she claimed that she was opening up a daycare center. And then she never mentioned that again, so it must be she didn't pass a background check, is my hunch. And then she posted she wanted to be a nurse. And then she very quickly posted that she was accepted into a nursing program. Well, Miss Mensa dug in, and the nursing program she said had accepted her did not exist. Six months later, she claimed that she started the nursing program. She claimed that she bought her anatomy and physiology book. Somebody was pretty unfamiliar with how the whole nursing programs work to have made that claim. And remember, she hated math. And remember, she had a very limited vocabulary. She was not the brightest bulb. As much as they want to say she was shining, she simply was not the brightest bulb. At the point in time when she was claiming she got accepted into a nursing program, there were limited spots available. So limited that nursing programs expected applicants to have already completed anatomy and physiology and to have achieved a grade point average in some cases of 3.5 to 4.0. She hadn't even taken A&P. Yet she bought the textbook? That's somebody who is absolutely unfamiliar with post-high school education. You don't buy the book until you're already signed up for the class. You also don't buy the book and then offer the passcode to the tools they have for studying, the study tools, to strangers on social media. That would have gotten her kicked out of any nursing program, quite frankly, because it's a very clear sign that somebody is a very deceitful, dishonest person. I believe she probably bought the book, but I highly doubt she was ever accepted into any nursing program, especially with the climate at the time of having such a shortage of nursing spots available at any nursing program. Let's face it, she was not at the top of her class. Ever. To get into a nursing program at that point in time, you had to be. Let's face it, she was a liar. And unfortunately for her, and more importantly, unfortunately for Bella and Cece, it seems to me like nobody ever held her accountable for her bad acts. Somebody just said that they don't even think she had a GED. I agree. I don't either. I don't even think she had a GED. I think it is possible that she did have a baby when she was 14. And the reason I'm saying that is because the scumbag attackers pattern has been for 3 years straight that they accuse those of us they're attacking of things that Christopher Watts' wife actually committed or didn't commit, if you know what I'm saying. She didn't even claim to go more than one term, and I highly doubt she went one term. Because when she said she was going to be in the nursing program, that's when she was also saying to Christopher Watts that her doctor told her she had to move to Colorado for her health challenges. So he right away got a job in Colorado and he moved out there ahead of her. Well, she was supposedly attending her first term of the nursing program. Well, if you're moving to Colorado, what are you doing pretending that you're in a nursing program? And then she never mentioned it again, except she called herself Nurse Nene. And she said that in 2 years, this is her claim, in 2 years, she would have a 4-year nursing degree. Yeah, right. I don't think she made it through one term. I don't think she was ever accepted. I think she was a liar. And I think that when Christopher Watts proposed to her, that was right when she was claiming that she was going to be starting the nursing program in a couple of months. That's when he proposed to her. Well, wait, 4 months. He proposed to her on August 10th of 2011, and she claimed she was starting the nursing program in January of 2012. So when he proposed to her, he actually thought he was proposing to somebody who was going to be an RN with a 4-year degree in just 2 years. Oh, but then, a few months later, her doctor supposedly told her she had to move to Colorado. See what I'm saying? And then they were married the following year. I think she was conning him every step of the way. She was supposedly taking 28 pills every day. And then when she moved to Colorado, she quit all 28 pills cold turkey, and he believed it. Maybe Bella and Cece became the patients that she knew she would never have. And I bet nobody ever told her that nurses typically don't have nails like she seemed to need to have. When nurses get manicures, they get good manicures, not the cheap, cheesy kind. Bella says he was out there for a year, for close to a year. No, he wasn't. He went out in January. She went out in May. And she actually may have gone out in March or April, depending on which lie you believe. So he went out a couple, 3 months before her. And then officially, well, she was already in Colorado before May because she came back from Colorado to close on the house deal where she lost her shirt and told the buyer that he could just keep the furniture, even though it wasn't in the sales contract. People want to say how she made so much money off that house deal. Bullshit. Number one, who do you think was making the house payments? I highly doubt it was her. And number two, she didn't make any money on the house. It was a listed property, meaning that commissions would have had to have been paid out of the proceeds from the sale. She didn't make a dime. Yet she sat on the deck of the house that Christopher Watts built, or bought at least. I highly doubt he ever swung a hammer, acting as if she had made money on a house deal. Bullshit. Kay Cooper says Baby Wise seemed like just an excuse to be a lazy first-time parent, in my opinion. I highly doubt she ever used Baby Wise. People have contacted me to say that CPS routine was not the first one, that evidently when Bella was a baby, there was something going on. I highly doubt she was ever responsible for caring for her own children. I highly doubt it. Sue says, I thought she had been babysitting for someone in Colorado. The claim is she was a nanny. Bullshit. I don't believe it. In my opinion, I think that nurse person was actually the one in position to be watching over Christopher Watts' wife's actions. I fully believe they met on care.com. I don't believe that she babysat for the nurse. Sandy says, how long had the girls gone to that daycare? Well, they started full time, but before that, I think they went part time, or at least Bella was going part time, I think. But they both started full time in, I believe it was February of 2017. Bella says, who would entrust her with their children? Exactly. And you know how they claim she worked for the hospital? Bullshit. I don't believe it. What hospital would hire her? I don't believe it. And all this crap that she was such a wonderful salesperson. Would you buy something from her? I don't know, maybe if it was half price and worth buying, but I don't think so. I don't think so. The superficial, I don't know. It is not that hard to see. Sandy says she answered phones or something. I don't think she worked there at all. I think it was all another lie. I don't think a hospital would have hired her. I think she was on disability since she was a kid. Bella says, I wonder if the girls had a scholarship. I think what they had was some sort of government funding. I think that Christopher Watt's wife was on disability, and I think the girls were supposed to be there, and I think there was some sort of a government grant. Sue says, I read that she worked from home for some pediatrics hospital. Yeah. That's the story we're told. I don't believe it for 1 second. I don't even think she would have qualified to be a volunteer at a hospital, not even for the gift shop. Bella said the bulk of CW's checks went to the MLM. I think the MLM had a lot of credit card action going on from Christopher Watt's wife. Sandy says that she's going to Google if Primrose accepts government CPS stuff. Well, that might not be something that they advertise. And every private school has programs available. They have programs available for families who may be struggling or families who have some kind of hardship. But it might not be something they advertise. Kay Cooper says, I never believed she worked at a hospital either. I just cannot imagine any hospital hiring her. Her resume was working at a tire store. We're told she quit that job 3 weeks after meeting Christopher Watt's savings account. I have a feeling the Denver area would have a lot of people to choose from if they wanted to hire somebody for the pediatrics hospital who actually successfully completed high school and college, who actually had a professional resume to present. I think we've been lied to so many times about so many details of this case that it's just kind of all blurry at this point. But if they're going to lie about the whole nursing thing, then they could be lying about everything. Liars lie. Don't you think it's kind of weird how 3 years later, we're still being told the same old lies? I did a video about that nursing program a couple of years ago. And I said, please, if you know of any evidence that this program ever existed, please email me with that evidence. I repeated that plea many times. And not one person has ever come forward with any evidence that that nursing program ever existed. What's that tell you? That tells you that they're sitting over there going, oh shit, Mensa found out that that nursing program was a lie. Well, if she's going to lie about being accepted into a nursing program, then why is it a very far stretch at all? It isn't. To think that maybe she was lying about lupus. Maybe even lying about being pregnant. What else was she lying about? How many people has she lied to? And all of that doesn't even matter. What matters is that poor little Bella and Cece were subjected to abuse, and nobody protected them. Yeah, Kate Cooper, remember that? Do you know who that was? One of the main scumbag attackers. She no longer has her channel on YouTube. She was smart enough, evidently, tech savvy enough to block her voice by using a robo app, but she was too stupid to figure out how to block her phone number. And it just so happened that I was taping at the time. So when the phone rang, I didn't even think about it. I answered the phone. And it started off by reciting the phone number of the scumbag attacker. She called 3 times in the middle of the night, my home phone, with harassing phone calls. And she claims she's very good friends with other known scumbag attackers. She calls them by name. I call them scumbag attackers. Nope, not Avocado. Good guess, though. She's a wild one. Not Avocado. Avocado just likes to make threatening videos, and she likes to read articles and pretend like they're her words. Scumbag attacker, you bet she is. Ugh. But remember, she worked for the family. Remember that? Samantha is guessing the banana. Nope, it wasn't the banana. Kate Cooper's guessing Alice. Nope, it wasn't Alice. Jeanette said if she was kidnapped, don't tell anyone. What? I haven't heard that one yet. Sammy said Lemon. Nope, it wasn't Lemon. Although Lemon did hold a live chat for 6 hours or 7 hours straight, where she posted my phone number and told everybody to call me, and they had a good old time. And my phone rang nonstop all during her live chat, while she herself was calling my home phone to harass me. And that's another channel that was applauded by those who claim they're being harassed. Yeah, okay. Samantha's guessing KK. Nope, not KK. Kay Cooper's guessing MG. Nope, not MG. Though she is closely connected to that little pack, and they admit that they've worked together quote, worked together for 3 years at the point that the case of Christopher Watts came on board, meaning that they formed in 2015. MJ guessed it. It was CK. CK in the middle of the night thought it was the adult thing to do to make harassing phone calls to my home. And get this, the content of CK's bullshit phone calls was to threaten me that she would sue me for harassment. That's how they do it. They lie. They file false police reports. They send ridiculous cease and desist letters. I mean, absolutely ridiculous, laughable, quite frankly. They dox our personal information. They create posts that are full of lies about us, about our families, about our careers. Kay Cooper says, OMG, I'm so glad CK is now off of YT. Sandy says, isn't she the one getting sued for millions on that, however you say that last name, case? Supposedly. That's the story. She said at one point that she was fighting for everybody's right for freedom of speech. Bullshit. But I think it's interesting that another scumbag attacker recently said the same exact words, as in script. And about 3 months ago, another channel creator said the same exact words, as in a scripted reading. Ooh, Sandy found the answer. Primrose schools do accept subsidies. There you go. But even if they didn't list that information, I think most schools do, whether or not they list it. Kay Cooper said that she went overboard with that case and it pissed her off because she doesn't think that, what was his name? What was his first name? Was it Christian or not? I'm not sure. I think his first name was Christian, that he harmed himself. I don't think it has anything to do with anybody's opinion on whether or not he harmed himself or whether or not he was murdered. I think the overboard part was the animosity toward his mother and the lies that were stated about his mother, because unless she can prove her claims, if there is an actual case going on, if the mother can prove, the mother doesn't even have to prove. It's up to the defendant to prove that what she stated was true. If she cannot prove that what she stated was true, then I think the mother has a really good chance of winning if that case is true. That doesn't have anything to do with freedom of speech. If you're going to make accusations against another person, then you better be able to prove it's true. The onus is not on the plaintiff to prove that it is not true. It would be the same as with Christopher Watts' brother-in-law. He publicly claimed that I lost custody of my children. I never lost custody of my children. Custody of my children was never an issue, ever. I don't have to run in there and prove that he's a liar. He would have to be able to prove, to defend the case, he would have to be able to prove that what he claimed was true. And what he claimed was nothing but a lie. Well, it's the same thing with that other case. Christian's mother does not have to prove that she did not provide drugs and alcohol or whatever it was. I think provide alcohol to minors or something. That was one of the accusations. She doesn't have to prove that she didn't. It's up to the defendant to prove that she did. Sandy said it took a minute to find it. The school site doesn't mention it, but the government website for CCSP Child Care Subsidy Program lists every Primrose school in every state. Well, there you go, Sandy. That's good detective work there. There you go. Yeah, I highly doubt they ever paid for their own daycare. I highly doubt it. I do believe it was part of a family plan, and I do believe that, well, to put it, I guess, in simple terms, I think Christopher Watt's wife was highly skilled in one thing: holding her hand out for other people to give her money. Their overhead, their actual overhead was very low compared to what most people pay. That house payment was not terribly high at all. At all. They didn't even own a car. They had very low overhead. But what they also had was a woman who had a stack of credit cards, which is what I was told by a store clerk who waited on her personally. She had a stack of credit cards. I was told it was like a deck of cards. And that store clerk claims that she saw names on cards other than the customer's name. And that it took quite a few cards that she tried before she had one that worked. I think she had a check arrive in her account on a monthly basis for disability. And I do not believe that she was on disability for lupus. I do not believe she was on disability for fertility issues or for celiac disease or for fibro or for endo or for any of the other claims she made. I think she was a full-blown disabled person due to severe mental illness. I wonder if Dieter has a credit card. Kay Cooper says, I think disability isn't much either if you haven't worked. I think it's like $650 a month. I don't know. I don't think she ever actually worked. I think any disability check would have been at the bottom rung of whatever. Don't you love it when they call it their benefit? But I think it would have been enough for her to get her nails done. I think it would have been enough for her to go shopping. I think it would have been enough for her to con Christopher Watson to believing she actually worked. And I think there are other bennies that come along with it too. Who knows? Probably medical, medical insurance, medications, whatever. Who knows? But think about their actual overhead expenses. They didn't have any. They didn't have any higher expenses than anybody else on the planet. And you guys do realize that without his wife's spending, he and Bella and Cece would have been just fine financially in that house, right? Do you realize that? They would have been just fine without her spending. I think she had severe mental illness from the time she was a teenager. And as many times as those of us who have been targeted for attack have been accused of having a baby when we were 14, I believe that Christopher Watt's wife had a baby when she was 14. Just like every other accusation they've made against us actually appears to have been true for Christopher Watt's wife. Bella said her mental status and benefits she received would require a caseworker to have close contact with her and to report her status to a superior, hence, them being involved when Bella was born. Well, I also believe that with severe mental illness, that during her pregnancy with Bella, that she probably exhibited some behaviors that were very concerning. Jeanette says the presumption of innocence. Yes, the burden of proof. Well, it doesn't really have anything to do with the presumption of innocence, Jeanette. The presumption of innocence has to do with criminal law. The burden of proof, however, with the defamation claim lies with the defendant. If the defendant produces whatever evidence that they're basing their claim on, then the burden of proof will shift to the plaintiff to refute. Tennyson's tucking in. Good night, Tennyson. I'm glad you were here. Samantha said, must be an open adoption if she had a play date with her other two daughters. And possibly not, Samantha. Possibly not, because even if an adoption is not open, the parents can and sometimes do connect. Bella said, good night, Tennyson. I don't believe it was an open adoption. I believe it was twins taken away at birth. And I believe that the birth mother probably started stalking, and that the adopted parents probably thought, how do we deal with her? And they probably did their best to keep her at bay. That could be Samantha, maybe some sort of a thing where she was able to get pictures or updates or something, or maybe not. If the babies were taken at birth and if there were severe diagnoses, then I would think legally that the adoptive parents would have been very able to not have any contact if they chose not to. Bella said word is she was pregnant when she met Chris. I think she was pregnant during that time frame. And according to Cindy, she was very heavy when her son met her future daughter-in-law. Right, Samantha, but it doesn't mean that she necessarily had an open adoption. If mental illness played a part in it, I highly doubt it was an open adoption. But again, they would certainly have the ability to set the parameters and offer contact if they felt that was in their children's best interest. I personally think that the kids who were adopted at birth possibly had familial Mediterranean fever. And I think that's how she went weirdo about the whole familial Mediterranean fever routine. I don't think she was bright enough to figure it out that Bella and Cece didn't have the same parentage as the twins. Because you know it's hereditary, right? Sophia said, could she have had drugs in her system at birth? And that's a very real possibility. Or she could have had a mental breakdown during the pregnancy, or both. Maybe that's why she didn't want to go to the doctor. Remember how she said she was spotting and cramping? Maybe that's why. Cindy Watts said that she was told by a hospital employee in North Carolina that Christopher Watts' wife was known as a, quote, seeker. That's evidently somebody who shows up at the emergency room claiming they have pain. Sandy evidently believes that she was taking 28 pills a day. I highly doubt those would have been the drugs that would have been detected at birth. Exactly, Bella. If she was spotting and cramping and if she was pregnant, she would have hightailed it to the nearest emergency room. But she didn't want to go. Sophia says, spotting and cramping, so let's go fly in airplanes and drink. Samantha said, I think she was on Oxy. I do too. And I think that little traveling makeup bag may have held the truth about whether or not she was on Oxy. And I'm wondering why the friend, who I think was a caregiver, was so concerned about whether or not she was going to be arrested. Sandy said, unless she was addicted to pain pills and taking way more than she was supposed to. And maybe addicted to who knows what else, too. I think one thing we can be sure of is she certainly wasn't addicted to the truth. And I don't think she was addicted to work either. Yes, Sandy points out a cute one, and it was 28 pills of the same medication. Gotta have my Oxy. Oh, I need another Oxy. How many have I taken so far? And wasn't she so happy because Chris Watts called her one time from work and said, don't forget to take your pills. There's an adult woman for you. Samantha says, I think she crushed and sniffed, hence the nose touching. Plus, there was something on the counter. I think it was the bathroom counter. There was some kind of powder that the police talked about in one of those walkthrough videos. There was some kind of powder on the counter. Did they take it in for testing? Who knows? You know, it appears to me, and I think it appears to most people, that they came, they saw, they left with a few grocery bags. MJ's taking off and getting some sleep. Good night, MJ. Bella says NA is another one who knows more than she has revealed. And the stress of her knowledge amid silence has had an effect on her health these last 3 years. My opinion, I think NA was a caregiver. I also think it was moving day. I don't think that Christopher Watt's wife was supposed to be there that night. I don't. I think there were other people there because I think it was moving day. But I got to tell you, I didn't come up with that idea myself. The person who said that to me is a lot more informed about this case than I am. And when I first heard it, it was only less than a week ago. I was like, whoa. But thinking about it, it fits. I think it was moving day. I think her facade was gone. As soon as she was moved out of that house, her facade would have been gone. Samantha thinks the R's were there. I think there were others there, and I think there was another vehicle there too, at least one. I think it'd be interesting to know who was wearing that glove, that plastic rubber glove, whatever it was, that was left behind. And why was there a strong smell of bleach? And why the hell didn't law enforcement ask those questions at the time and dig in a little further to what may have happened the night that two little girls were murdered in what should have been the safety of their own home? Why was law enforcement so willing to close the case so fast? Why was the prosecutor so anxious to close the case so fast? Why did the court allow the case to be closed so fast? Why did Christopher Watts allow the case to be closed so fast? What secrets is he so hell-bent on keeping? I don't believe that I've seen any other true crime case where there have been so many scumbag attackers evidently on the job to try to quote unquote protect a false narrative. Sandy said, yes, the Starbucks in the trash too. Bella says negligence on the part of CPS and many others. I would say law enforcement and CPS. And I question too why so many medical professionals humored her. Surely, if she's reporting that her 4-year-old has been sick for 15 days, somebody should have caught a clue that there was something going on. But quite frankly, I think by the time she was reporting that the girls were sick all the time, I think she had already spent over a month at a hospital in Indianapolis. And I know the scumbag attackers say she was never in Indianapolis. Well, then why did she say she was? Sophia says she changes appearance based on her personality. The scary one is in many of her videos. I think that the person she was in her videos, the personality in her videos, was a very scary person. Kay Cooper said, what about SR having Nate watch the house and report to her if he ever saw Ronnie Watts trying to get in the house? Wow. I don't know if Neighbor Nate is hooked on YouTube or not, but if he is, and if he hears this live chat, Neighbor Nate, you should step forward and talk to us. Tell us what you know. Tell us what you know. Bella said law enforcement and the attorneys wouldn't let Cindy talk to Chris before he copped that plea. Very strange. Very strange also if Chris's claims are true that he was kept in solitary and surviving very rough conditions. And according to what I was told, the only books that he was given to read, he didn't have a television, he didn't have any contact with anybody, but he was given books about gruesome murders. Sounds kind of weird when you think about that. Sandy said, right? Who told Neighbor Nate SW had diabetes? Exactly. We do, Bella. We need Nate in here. Nate, if you're listening, either jump in now or watch for our next live chat and jump in. We want to talk to you. Because, Nate, we think you know a hell of a lot more than what you've said so far. And we think that for Bella and Cece's sake, that you should come forward and tell us the truth of what you know. That channel is another one, Kay Cooper. Part of the pack. She allows her comment threads to be chock full of doxing, harassment, hate mongering, even threats. If she was just some sort of, innocent YouTuber, she sure as hell wouldn't be allowing all of the nasty shit she allows in her comment threads. In my opinion, her channel is nothing but a hate channel used to harass and harm innocent people who have been attacked from day one. Kay Cooper says, talk, Nate. Why were you watching the house for SR? Kay Cooper said, true, MM. I don't watch her videos anymore once I saw her comments on her videos. And right from the start, she was allowing some of the worst attacks. She's just a little too fishy. Scott Reich, on the other hand, absolutely will not allow any bullshit in his comment threads. So that's a good thing. I'll just say this quick too, and then I think we should probably say goodnight. There are a bunch of channels right now who are fighting with each other. I want you to, if you watch any of that crap, I want you to consider something. I said it earlier in this video, or else it was in the earlier live chat tonight. Same shit, different day. They're creating content by pretending that they're fighting with each other. They're not fighting with each other. Sammy is confused as to why Christopher Watt's father-in-law is saying that he knows more but will not tell. I think it's very interesting that somebody related, so closely related to a true crime case, is saying that we don't know the truth. Because if someone tells you that you don't know the truth, then I think what they're also saying is, haha, you're being lied to. Samantha said, have you heard about NK Fundraiser? No, I haven't. Sandy said, I unsubbed from all of those channels. I stopped watching a couple months back when it got really crazy. It's ridiculous. I agree with you, Sandy. Bella said, a lot of people connected to this case watch your lives. Your steadfast support for Bella and Cece holds more weight than you know. They can only remain silent for so long before they break and speak. Well, I think for any of the people related to the case who have yet to come forward with what they know, I think they might want to consider this. Someday, somebody will come forward with what they know. And I think your best step forward is to be the first person to do so. Just my opinion. Sandy's saying that Christopher Watt's father-in-law said he will never tell the truth on MRBs. I'm not sure if he said he will never tell the truth. Is that what he said? I thought he said something more like he will never tell what he knows or something like that. Or all that he knows or something. Samantha said raise fund. Oh, you're talking about NC, not NK. Samantha says raise funds in a pool for a lawyer, but went to the casino, and PayPal closed the pools on 30 November, I think they said, or something like that. I don't know. That whole dance that's going on, the banana and NC and whatever, you know, they're creating content. It's all right there. Sammy said, yes, Sandy, he did. Oh, I didn't hear that. But quite frankly, I couldn't stand to watch that. I only watched a little tidbit of it, just a little clip. Because that smug attitude, and remember, MRB, we call her Alice here. Alice, in my opinion, is a scumbag attacker. She has created content repeatedly that is defamatory and slanderous. So whoever she has up there on her panel, I'm going to trust them as much as I trust her, which is zilch. Yeah, the whole thing with the casino or whatever, big flipping. I mean, seriously. And everyone's calling everyone on every, whatever. They're all accusing each other of the same old crap that's been going on for 3 years. It's just different people coming along. They're all saying the same crap. They're all reading from the same scripts. And they're all raking in the money, or trying to at least. They claim they have, the money posted. I question where the money comes from, if any, and what it's used for down the road. I think most of the people who we've mentioned here with the other channels could very well start a true crime channel. But I don't think that's what they want. I think what they want is to somehow make some easy cash. I don't think they care who they hurt. I don't think they care anything at all about the truth. And once again, it's another example of somebody saying, oh, they're getting a lawyer. Oh, they're going to, have all this evidence or whatever, that someone's picking on them. When all of these people involved have lied about other people. Sandy says the PayPal pool has over 9,000 in it, and Sandy believes it. Samantha says she raised 11,000, and Samantha believes it. See, you guys You guys are so like you guys aren't liars, right? And that's the problem I had for like a year or two. I couldn't believe that those scumbag attackers could be up to what they were up to. Like, it was so difficult for me to wrap my brain around how these people who are of a chronological age that you would hope they would know better than to commit the crimes they were committing, right? That's like, what's the word? I think we're all gullible, you guys. I think we're gullible. But after 3 years of watching the same old shit repeat itself, the same patterns repeat over and over again, you got to step back and go, this is all bullshit. Do you really believe that those channels have the number of subs they claim they have? I mean, even one of the family members claims to have 30-some thousand subs. Yet when he posted a comment, 16 hours later, he only had 12 comments. If you have 30-something thousand subscribers, you will have more than 12 comments. It's true. The same thing with the guy over in the UK. He supposedly has tens of thousands of subscribers. And sometimes he has 3 comments. There's no way. That isn't how the numbers work. If you have thousands of subscribers, you will at least have hundreds of comments. They're liars. We've seen all of the channel creators lie over and over again. So what's keeping them from lying about how many subs they have or how much money they're raking in, right? And keep in mind, a lot of those channel creators have criminal histories. Criminals are liars. Criminals don't care about right from wrong. Criminals don't care about obeying the law. But here we are, the gullible few, going, wow, look at that. Look at how many subscribers she got in such a short time, and look at all that money she's collecting. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. In my opinion, if they're discussing true crime cases, in my opinion, they're worth your time if you enjoy discussing true crime cases. But all that drama stuff, it's all bullshit. When you have people who have been known to attempt to harm innocent people, to attempt to harass innocent people, to attempt to hate monger, and to threaten innocent people, and then they sit up on their little high horse and say, that's it, I'm going to get a lawyer. I'm going to put a stop to it because I don't deserve to be treated this way. There's something in the legal profession known as clean hands. When they obviously do not have clean hands, the chances that they're actually going to ever pursue any legal action against one of their victims, one of their targets, is nil. And on that note, I need to get my sleep, and you guys do too. So everybody have a great night. Have a great, happy Sunday. I hope the weather's great where you are at and you can enjoy a beautiful autumn day with family and friends and relax a little bit and just enjoy. I do have a super busy week, but I'll try to hop on midweek. If I don't, then I'll catch up with y'all next weekend for sure. And now remember, I'm going to add one to my little list. I usually say be safe, be healthy, and know that you are loved. And I also now want to add, now remember to take your vitamin D. Good night, everyone.